Hello and welcome. So, electric cars. Now, unless you've been living under a rock for the last 10 years, you will have noticed a huge explosion in the number of electric cars on our roads. But many people I speak to about electric cars still think of them as dull eco-boxes. So I've often wondered, if a sports car manufacturer actually bothered to build an electric car, I wonder what it would be like. So, this is what an electric car looks like from a sports car maker, the Porsche Taycan. Now, the eagle-eyed among you would have noticed that this particular one is the 4S. Now, I know that the Turbo S is the one that gets all the attention. That's the one that will get to 60 in 2.7 seconds and has 760 horsepower. But for this video, I thought it would be a good idea to have a look at the entry point to the Taycan range with the 4S, because I think that this one is the one that's going to be the big seller for Porsche. This particular one has the shorter range battery as well. It's got the 79 kilowatt battery, but you can spec the bigger 96 kilowatt battery. So this one has a range of about 200 miles. If you do spec the bigger battery, you can probably stretch that to about 230, maybe 240. But I thought it'd be interesting to see what it was like to live with the 4S in everyday usage. And tomorrow I should be doing a longer journey in the car to try out one of the new ultra fast chargers from Ionity. But charging I'll go into a little bit later on in the video. It's a little bit more complicated with the Taycan, but I'll explain a bit more of that later. So the Porsche purists out there are probably thinking, an electric Porsche, what's it going to be like? Well, the good news is it is a Porsche. It drives just like a Porsche should. Goes like a Porsche, corners like a Porsche. Now this particular car, the 4S, this one has 435 horsepower, but in launch control you get an overboost by nearly 100 horsepower. It boosts it to about 530, so it'll rip along to 60 mile an hour in about 4 seconds. So yes, pretty impressive. It's as quick as a 911. God, yeah, it's certainly got some power there. So having driven the car for a little while now, I have to say I'm very, very impressed. The way this thing goes around corners is immense. It handles just like a Porsche should. The steering is very, very precise, very direct, and there's no dead spot in the steering at all. So yeah, it really does come alive, especially when you put it into sport mode. You can feel it hunker down, and the front wheels really do communicate what's going on as well. As electric vehicle owners will tell you, when you put your foot down in any electric car, the surge of torque you get from a standstill is very, very impressive. But in this, you get your full 530 horsepower from a standstill, 0 RPM, and you're off down the road. I know the Turbo and the Turbo S, like I said, get all the headlines for being more powerful, a bit quicker to 60. But driving this around, it's hard to justify why you would need anything more, especially on normal roads. One of the highlights of the car as well is the driving position. There's so much adjustment on the seat and the steering wheel. It's very, very easy to get a really, really good driving position, and everything is dead central. Again, if anyone has driven a Porsche, the driving position is something you can really appreciate. Everything is where you need it to be. The advantage of the Taycan from a sports car sense, it is quite heavy, over 2 tons, but a lot of that, well, most of that weight is in the battery, which is slung right into the floor, so you get a very, very low centre of gravity. And when you put this thing into a corner, you just do not feel the weight at all. It feels very, very precise. It's got a bit of a split personality. When I was cruising down the dual carriageway earlier, it is a really, really good, calm, comfortable GT car. You do feel like you could just waft all over Europe in this thing. But then get it onto a twisty B road, put it into sports, and it almost feels like a 911. It really is fantastic how this thing goes and corners and stops. You never get tired of that immense grunt from those electric motors. There are two electric motors on this car, so you've got one on the front axle, one on the rear. So you have got all-wheel drive as well, which again helps the traction off the line. But it's just a very, very nice place to be. Now, this being an electric car, I could go into all sorts of boring details about its range, its efficiency, but this is a sports car. I wouldn't review a 911 and spend ages talking about its fuel economy. This is a proper sports car. And I don't mean it's a good sports car for an electric car. It is just a good sports car. If you're thinking about a high performance electric car, and you're thinking about one of those electric cars that begin with T and ends in Esla, you should seriously consider one of these. I mean, yes, Teslas, as you've probably seen on YouTube videos, can embarrass supercars from a launch, and they're probably on a par with the Taycan, like for like, acceleration-wise, probably very similar. But trust me, a Tesla cannot corner like this thing can corner. I do apologise if the video is a little bit dark. Serves me right, really. I decided to do this video in the middle of the British summertime, and everything around me is grey and rather drizzly, so typical British weather. So if you are struggling to see, I do apologise. So I've been driving this car around the lovely Devon roads, lovely sunny Devon, and just tootling around in the car in normal mode. It's very, very compliant. The suspension is very, very good. It's still firm enough. Still have fun with it in the corners. It's very compliant. It doesn't jiggle you around. Certainly do a lot of miles in this car. So this particular car is fitted with 3 drive modes. You have the range mode, which basically just quietens everything down, ekes out the energy. So if you are doing a long journey, you can eke out a few more miles. Although when I pressed range mode earlier, it only added about 8 miles to the range. So whether it's worth it or not, I don't know. Normal mode is probably what most people run it in most of the time. It still feels very, very good in normal mode. With a flick of a switch down here, I can put it into sport. And straight away I can feel it hunker down. Ride height's lowered slightly, suspension's got a little bit firmer, steering is weighted up a little bit. It just feels a little bit more aggressive. I know EVs lack an engine noise, but you might be able to pick it up on the video. You can hear the whine of the electric motors, and it's not a bad sound. It sounds okay. It's just different. If you're used to the roar of an engine, it's different. That's all I can say, really. I don't dislike it, but again, it's not quite the same as a roaring internal combustion engine. This particular car is fitted with the 21-inch wheels. They really, really look good. They don't seem to impact the ride that much either. I haven't driven one of these on the 19s, but I would expect it to be slightly more compliant over the bumps. But again, on Devon's lovely roads, even with the suspension sport mode, it doesn't feel harsh, it doesn't feel firm, it's not jiggling me around the road. It just feels properly planted. I know the eco warriors out there will probably point out that the 21-inch wheels sap your range slightly. But again, it's probably less than 10 miles over the range of the battery. I'd much rather have the bigger wheels. They do look stunning. Okay, so let's have a go at launching the car. Be rude not to, really, wouldn't it? Alright, so here we go. Bloody hell. this is the slow one. Wow. Not even a hint of wheel spin either. And the road is a tiny bit greasy with the drizzle at the moment. That is fast. Now I know one of the big appeals of a sports car is the engine. I mean, don't get me wrong, although I'm heavily into my EVs, I'm a bit of a petrol head as well. You know, I love the sound of a rumbling V8 or a screaming V10. But ever since I started driving electric cars back in 2013, I think it was, I've always found them fairly addictive. You know, just the way they pull away from the line. Even in a Nissan Leaf back in the day, it was, you could raise a few eyebrows just by leaving off at a set of traffic lights. So that's where I got my passion for EVs from. Not really the eco side of it, but just how they drive. They are a good drive, even the boring ones, surprisingly. But there's always a thing that, you know, if you take the engine out of a sports car, if you rip the heart out of it. But you know, driving this around, I don't really care. I don't really care that it's not got an engine. It's just bonkers how this thing goes. It certainly doesn't feel like it's 2 tons, that's for sure. It was inevitable that a company like Porsche were going to build an electric sports car. That's the way everything's going. There's a huge focus on environmental issues at the moment. And yes, there's that argument of how green an EV really is when you consider the chemicals that go into the batteries and how the batteries are made. But there's no arguing that for local air quality, an EV is fantastic. I mean, there's nothing coming out of the back of this car, no poisonous gases or anything. So for localised air pollution, especially if you live in a city, an EV really does make sense. And if you've got an EV as quick as this, it doesn't have to be boring either. You can have proper fun in this car. Out of the 3 models, the 4S, the Turbo and the Turbo S, it is probably this one, the 4S, that makes the most sense for most people. It's certainly fast enough, handles well enough, it's got enough range with either battery really, depending on what you were doing. If you're planning on touring around Europe, I'd probably recommend going for the bigger battery. But if the car was going to spend most of its time commuting you to and from work with the old weekend blast, the standard battery range would be absolutely fine for you. It's just whether you want faster cars. There's plenty of people out there who will buy a Turbo S just because it's a Turbo S. But this one, I think, would suit most people more often. Because where realistically, on public roads, have you got enough space to hit 60 in 2.7 seconds? Personally, I'm not bothered if I get to 60 in 4 seconds or 2.7. Makes no difference to me. So, an amazing car. I'm really looking forward to my little trip tomorrow, because that one I'll be able to show you just how fast this car can charge. That's another key selling point for the Taycan, is just how fast it can charge. I'll explain that a little bit later on in the video. I'll save that for tomorrow. So there are a few intricacies about it, which I'll let you know about. But yeah, my first day in the Taycan, it's just blown me away. I knew it was going to be good. What Porsche isn't good? It's absolutely stunning. Love it. If I had £83,000 plus